The stars shimmered above as the sleek, silver spacecraft descended onto an unfamiliar planet. The human explorers, led by Captain Serena Walker, had just made history by landing on the farthest world any human had ever visited. This was a place unlike any other. The surface glowed with a strange, soft light, and the air felt cooler than Earth's. They were on a mission of discovery, but little did they know, their actions would soon stir something ancient and dangerous. As the hatch of the ship opened, the crew stepped out, their boots crunching against the alien ground. The planet was silent, eerie, as if it was holding its breath. It was beautiful, yet there was a weight in the air, something unspoken, a feeling that they were not welcome. The team's translator buzzed softly, translating the strange symbols etched on the rocks, but there were no signs of life, no movement in the distance. Just then, out of nowhere, figures appeared in front of them. The aliens were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their clothes were unlike anything the humans had seen. They did not speak but stared silently, their gazes piercing, studying the humans as though they had never seen anyone like them before. It was as if they had been waiting, watching, and now the moment had arrived. Captain Walker stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We come in peace. We are explorers, from Earth. We mean no harm." The alien leader, a figure taller than the rest, stepped forward. The human crew exchanged nervous glances. The leader raised a hand, signaling for silence. Then, in a voice like soft wind through leaves, it spoke, its words translated in the human's earpiece. "You are the first humans to walk here in centuries." There was a pause. The tension between the two groups was palpable. The alien's gaze never left them, its eyes flickering with something. Fear, caution. Captain Walker couldn't tell. One of the younger explorers, Lieutenant James, eager to make a good impression, took a step forward and reached out his hand. It was a gesture of friendship, of connection, a simple human greeting. But as soon as his fingers brushed against the alien leader's arm, something strange happened. The alien flinched, a sharp breath escaping its lips. Its eyes widened in fear. The leader took a step back, as if the touch had burned it. The other CenaXians, as they were called, suddenly tensed, forming a protective circle around their leader. Captain Walker frowned, confused. "What's wrong?" she asked. The leader shook its head slowly. "You do not understand," it said, voice trembling. "You should not have touched me." There was a long, uncomfortable silence. The human crew stood frozen, unsure of what had just happened. The alien leader's voice broke the stillness. "You, humans, are forbidden to touch." The air grew heavier, the weight of those words sinking in like a cold stone in the pit of Captain Walker's stomach. Forbidden? What could that mean? Why was a simple touch so dangerous? The leader's eyes shifted toward the distant horizon, as if looking for something far beyond their understanding. "If you truly wish to understand," it whispered, "you must follow. But be warned, what you touch, you awaken." With that chilling statement, the leader turned and began to walk away, its people following close behind. The human explorers exchanged uneasy glances. What had they just stepped into? They had come for discovery, but now it seemed that their journey might have awoken something that had been slumbering for centuries. Captain Walker took a deep breath. "Stay alert, everyone," she said. "This is just the beginning." The human explorers followed the CenaXians through their strange, glowing city, their hearts racing with uncertainty. The alien structures towered above them, made of smooth materials that shimmered under the pale light of the planet's twin moons. It was a breathtaking sight, but there was no time for awe. The words of the CenaXian leader haunted them. "What you touch, you awaken." Captain Serena Walker led the group, her eyes scanning the surroundings. There was an eerie silence that hung in the air. Despite the advanced technology around them, the CenaXians moved with an unsettling quietness, as if they were afraid to make a sound. The humans tried to speak, to ask questions, but the CenaXians only looked at them with caution, their eyes filled with an ancient sorrow that none of the crew could comprehend. After what felt like hours of walking, they arrived at the heart of the city. The central structure was unlike anything the humans had ever seen, a massive crystalline tower that pulsed with a soft light. It was as if the building itself was alive, breathing with the planet. The group stood before it, awestruck, but the CenaXians did not seem impressed. They simply stood there, waiting. The alien leader turned toward them, its glowing eyes dark with what seemed like regret. "You've already begun to understand the cost of your touch," it said in a soft, sorrowful tone. "But you must hear our story. It is the only way you will understand why we fear you." Captain Walker stepped forward, her curiosity piqued. "What do you mean? Why does our touch bring fear?" "We only meant to greet you." The leader sighed deeply, as if the weight of the past was too heavy to bear. "Long ago, our people thrived across the galaxy. We were the rulers of a vast empire. But then, something happened. We discovered the artifact, the one you touched." It paused, its eyes filled with pain. "It was our undoing." The humans were confused. "What was the artifact?" Lieutenant James asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The CenaXian leader's gaze shifted, as if the memories were too painful to relive. The artifact was not just an object. It was a curse, a weapon, a key to something much darker. When we touched it, we unleashed a force beyond our control. The galaxy trembled, and empires fell. Serena's heart raced. What happened to the artifact? "We tried to destroy it. We hid it away, buried it beneath the planet where you now stand. But even in hiding, its influence spread. Its touch could not be erased, only contained. And now, with your kind, humans, here, we fear the worst. When you touched it, you awakened the curse once more." The crew stood in stunned silence, the weight of the alien's words sinking in. What had they done? They had unknowingly triggered something far beyond their understanding. The alien leader stepped closer, its voice low and full of fear. "You must leave. If you don't, the curse will destroy everything. Your kind, your touch, has always been tied to it. Your presence here, it cannot be allowed. You do not understand what you've unleashed." Captain Walker's mind raced. The CenaXians' words made no sense, but the fear in their eyes was real. They had accidentally unleashed something dangerous, something ancient. But they couldn't just leave, not without answers. "We can't just leave," she said firmly. "There has to be a way to stop it. We can help you." The leader's gaze softened, and for the first time, there was a hint of hope. "Perhaps," it said, "but the cost will be great. To stop it, you must understand the truth about your kind's connection to the artifact." Captain Walker nodded, her resolve strengthening. "Then tell us. We need to know everything." As the leader began to speak, the truth began to unfold, a truth darker and more dangerous than they could ever have imagined. The curse had only just begun. The CenaXian leader led the humans deeper into the heart of the city, their steps echoing softly on the crystalline ground. The atmosphere had changed, becoming thicker with tension. The weight of the leader's words still hung in the air, heavy and ominous. "The curse will destroy everything." Captain Serena Walker felt the gravity of the situation pressing down on her shoulders. She could see the fear in the CenaXians' eyes. The alien race, once powerful and vast, had been shattered by a single mistake, touching the artifact. And now, humans, innocent and unaware, had triggered its dormant power. The leader stopped before a massive stone door at the center of the city. Strange, glowing symbols covered its surface, shifting and pulsing as if alive. The CenaXian leader placed its hand on the door, and with a low hum, it slowly slid open, revealing a dark chamber inside. The chamber was filled with relics, some of which the humans recognized as advanced alien technology, others as strange objects that seemed to defy logic itself. But in the center of the room was a pedestal, and on that pedestal, An ancient artifact rested, covered in shimmering dust. It looked harmless, beautiful even, but Serena could feel the chill in the air, the undeniable sense that something terrible lay within. "This is the artifact," the leader said, its voice barely a whisper. "It was our downfall." Serena stepped closer, studying it with a mixture of awe and dread. The artifact pulsed with an energy that felt wrong, unnatural. Her heart pounded as the CenaXian leader continued. "When we first discovered it," the leader explained, "we thought it was a gift, a tool of unimaginable power. But we were wrong. It was a weapon that could control the very fabric of the universe itself. It whispered to us, tempting us with promises of control, of power beyond imagination. But it was not meant for us." The leader paused, its glowing eyes filled with regret. "Our ancestors made a terrible mistake. They sought to harness its power, to use it to expand our empire. But the artifact had its own will. It cursed us, bound our fate to its touch. We could never undo what was done. It is a power that cannot be controlled, not even by us." The humans exchanged glances, the weight of the leader's words sinking in. But one question still burned in Serena's mind. How does this relate to us? Why does our touch awaken the curse? The CenaXian leader's gaze grew dark, and it took a deep breath before answering. "It is because of the humans who came before you. Long ago, a human race, your ancestors, visited our empire. They interacted with the artifact, and unknowingly, they brought about our fall. They were the first to touch it, and their touch unleashed the curse upon us. But your kind," the leader's voice faltered, as if it were struggling to say the words, "your kind carries the same connection to it. You are bound to it, like we are. The artifact is drawn to you, to your touch." Serena's mind raced. Her ancestors had somehow been tied to the artifact's curse. It made no sense, but the CenaXian's words held a dark truth. The artifact had not just been a weapon. It had been a force of destruction, and now it was awake again. A sense of urgency filled the room. The humans realized that the situation was far worse than they had imagined. The curse had not just been triggered, it was spreading, awakening something far more dangerous. And now, it was linked to them. The leader's voice grew more desperate. "You must leave before it is too late. You cannot be allowed to touch the artifact again. If you do, it will consume all of us." Captain Walker stood still, torn between fear and determination. They had come so far, and now they were facing a threat greater than they could ever have imagined. But she couldn't walk away, not without a fight. "We can't just leave. There must be a way to stop this, to stop the curse from destroying everything," Serena said, her voice firm. The CenaXian leader hesitated, looking at the artifact with a deep sorrow. "The only way to stop it is to destroy the artifact. But no one has ever been able to do that. The curse will fight back against anyone who tries." The words hung in the air, and the humans realized that their journey had only just begun. To stop the curse, they would have to face the greatest danger they had ever known. But Serena had made up her mind. They weren't leaving. Not yet. As the CenaXian leader spoke, a low, ominous hum filled the chamber. The artifact on the pedestal began to pulse, its light flickering like a heartbeat, casting eerie shadows across the walls. The humans felt it, an unnatural pressure that seemed to grip the very air around them. The darkness was awakening. Captain Serena Walker's pulse quickened. The room grew colder, and she could feel the energy in the chamber intensifying, vibrating beneath her feet. She glanced at her crew, seeing the unease on their faces. Lieutenant James stepped forward, eyes fixed on the artifact, his curiosity outweighing his fear. "What is happening? Why is it reacting like this?" The CenaXian leader's voice was urgent, filled with panic. "The artifact is a sentient being, an ancient force that feeds on touch. The moment you touched it, you released its energy. It's awakening, and it will not stop until it consumes everything in its path." Serena looked at the glowing artifact, her mind racing. Consumed everything. What did that mean? Before anyone could respond, the chamber's walls began to shift, as though the very structure was alive. The air grew heavier, charged with energy, as cracks appeared in the crystal walls. The soft humming turned into a deep, reverberating growl that echoed through the chamber, shaking the ground beneath them. The CenaXian leader backed away from the pedestal, fear in its eyes. We cannot stop it. Once it awakens, it calls to the void, to the enemies we once fled. The Ancient Ones will return. The word sent a chill down Serena's spine. The enemies the leader spoke of. What were they? And what could they do? Suddenly, the artifact emitted a brilliant flash of light, blinding everyone in the room. For a brief moment, everything was silent. When the light dimmed, the humans were no longer in the chamber. They found themselves standing in a vast, dark landscape. The air was thick, swirling with shadows, and the sky was a sickly shade of red. The ground beneath them cracked and heaved, as if it were alive. An overwhelming sense of dread filled the atmosphere. This place wasn't just alien. It was wrong, unnatural. "This is impossible," muttered Lieutenant James, his voice trembling as he looked around. "Where are we? What is this place?" The CenaXian leader's voice echoed through the air, though no one had seen it speak. "This is where the artifact draws its power from. This is the heart of the curse, the realm of the Ancient Ones." A shape appeared in the distance, massive and shrouded in darkness. Slowly, it approached, its form becoming clearer as it neared. It was a giant, shadowy figure with glowing eyes, its form flickering like smoke. It radiated power, an ancient and terrifying energy. The ground beneath it trembled as it walked. The humans instinctively stepped back, their hands on their weapons, though they knew there was nothing they could do. The CenaXian leader's voice was filled with desperation. "The Ancient Ones, when they return, they will bring ruin. They are the ones who controlled the artifact before we did, and now they seek to reclaim it. You have awakened them, and you must stop them." Serena's heart raced as the creature loomed closer. She could feel its malevolent presence, a force of pure destruction. It wasn't just a physical threat, it was an existential one. If the Ancient Ones returned, they would destroy everything, not just the CenaXians, but all life in the galaxy. "We have to stop this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There has to be a way to fight back." But the CenaXian leader's voice grew quieter, tinged with regret. "You cannot fight what you do not understand. The artifact, it is tied to the fabric of this realm. It feeds off your kind, and its power can only be stopped by one thing, the same thing that started it all." Serena frowned, confused. "What started it all? What do you mean?" The CenaXian leader looked at her, its eyes filled with sorrow. "Your kind, humans, are bound to the artifact. To stop it, you must touch it again. But this time, you must be willing to sacrifice everything." The shadowy figure was now only a few steps away, its glowing eyes locked on Serena. She could feel the weight of its gaze, a silent promise of destruction. The curse was upon them, and there was no escaping it now. To save the galaxy, she and her crew would have to face their greatest fear and make the ultimate sacrifice. As the darkness closed in, Serena knew one thing for certain. They had awakened something far worse than they ever imagined. The battle for survival had just begun. The massive shadow loomed in front of them, its glowing eyes burning with malevolent intent. The ground beneath Serena and her crew quaked with every step it took, and the air was thick with a power that threatened to crush them. The shadowy figure, the Ancient One, was close now. Too close. Serena's heart raced. She could feel the coldness of the air around her, as if the very atmosphere was draining the warmth from her body. The CenaXian leader stood beside her, its eyes wide with fear, but also with a grim resignation. "To stop this," the leader said, voice trembling, You must sacrifice the one thing that binds you to the artifact, your touch. But that means the end of everything you know. Serena couldn't believe what she was hearing. Sacrifice everything. The CenaXian's words weighed heavily on her heart. It sounded impossible, unimaginable. But the figure before her, its eyes glowing like fiery suns, was a testament to the power they were up against. The artifact, the curse, it was real, and it was out of their control now. As the Ancient One drew closer, it reached out a long, dark arm, its fingers trailing across the air like tendrils of smoke. Every step it took sent ripples of fear through the humans, and the CenaXians stood frozen, unsure if they could even move, let alone fight back. "You're the only ones who can stop this," the CenaXian leader whispered. "But only if you do what must be done." Serena took a deep breath. She looked around at her crew, Lieutenant James, who had always been so brave, even in the face of danger, Engineer Peterson, whose hands had built the ship they flew in, the very tool that had carried them here, and the others, all of them standing on the brink of annihilation. And then the truth dawned on her. "The only way to stop this is to touch the artifact again," Serena said softly, her voice filled with certainty. "But we're not just stopping the curse, are we? We're ending it. Forever." The CenaXian leader nodded solemnly. "Yes, the artifact feeds on your kind's energy. If one of you can touch it again, truly touch it without the intention to control it, you will sever the connection. But it will be a price. It will drain you. All of you. Your lives will be forfeit." Serena's mind raced. The artifact had already cost the CenaXians everything. Now it was her turn to make the ultimate choice. She had to stop the curse, not just for her crew, but for the entire galaxy. She couldn't let this ancient force take over. "Who will do it?" Lieutenant James asked, stepping forward. His face was pale, but his resolve was as strong as Serena's. "Captain, you can't expect any of us to stand back. We're in this together." The leader's voice grew quieter, filled with sorrow. "It is not just your lives at stake. The artifact's power will consume you, every fiber of your being. Once you touch it, the essence of your soul will be bound to it, forever." Serena's heart skipped a beat. The price was far higher than she had imagined. Yet despite the fear, despite the gravity of the decision, one thing was clear. "This is our mission," Serena said firmly, her eyes locking with James. "We came here to explore, to learn. We cannot let the universe suffer because of a mistake we made. I will do it." Before anyone could stop her, she moved toward the pedestal where the artifact lay. The dark figure behind them loomed ever closer, its presence becoming more overwhelming with every second. Serena reached out, her hand trembling as it hovered over the shimmering surface of the artifact. The CenaXian leader called out, "Captain, you must understand. This is not just a choice. You are choosing to erase your existence. You may not survive." Serena turned to face her crew one last time, her heart heavy with the burden of what she was about to do. But she saw in their eyes both fear and trust. They knew it was the only way. With a final steadying breath, Serena touched the artifact. A sharp, searing pain shot through her hand as energy surged into her body. The room around her seemed to collapse, the air filled with a violent storm of light and darkness. The artifact pulsed and throbbed, a deadly force coursing through her veins, but she held her ground. She wasn't just stopping the curse, she was ending it. As the energy engulfed her, Serena felt her body weaken, her mind begin to unravel. But in that moment, she understood. The curse was not just a physical force. It was the price of arrogance, of control, of greed. And now it was being erased. The darkness screamed. The Ancient One roared in fury, its form flickering and fading. The artifact's power exploded, sending shockwaves through the chamber. But Serena held on, knowing that with this final act, the galaxy would be saved. And then everything went dark. When Serena awoke, she found herself lying on the cold ground, the artifact gone. The room was silent, The shadowy figure vanished. Her crew rushed to her side, their faces filled with concern. "You did it," Lieutenant James said, his voice shaky but filled with awe. "You stopped it. The curse is broken." But Serena only smiled faintly, knowing that the cost had been high. They had saved the galaxy, but their journey was over. The darkness had been sealed away, and the future, though uncertain, would be theirs to shape, free from the curse that had nearly destroyed them all. As the humans stood together, the CenaXians began to approach, their eyes filled with gratitude and sorrow. The battle had been won, but the scars of the past would never fully fade. Yet Serena knew one thing for certain: their mission had changed the course of history. The universe had been saved, and the curse, finally, was broken. The air was still. The hum of the artifact was gone. Serena sat up slowly, feeling the weight of everything she had just done. Her body ached, and her mind was clouded, as though waking from a nightmare that had been all too real. The world around her was silent, eerily silent, save for the soft, distant murmurs of her crew and the CenaXians. Lieutenant James knelt beside her, his hand on her shoulder. Concern etched on his face. "Captain, are you all right?" he asked, his voice trembling. Serena glanced around at her crew, seeing their worried expressions. She could feel their gazes on her, but everything seemed distant, as though she were hearing their voices from far away. The power she had touched, absorbed, was still swirling within her, and though the artifact's curse had been destroyed, a lingering echo of its energy remained inside her. "I'm not sure," she murmured, her voice hoarse. She tried to rise, but her legs felt weak, unsteady, like they didn't quite belong to her anymore. "The artifact, it's gone. The curse is gone." James nodded, his expression a mixture of relief and awe. "You did it, Captain. You stopped it." Serena closed her eyes, remembering the pain, the overwhelming surge of power that had coursed through her as she touched the artifact. It had been like no other sensation she had ever felt. There had been agony, yes, but also a strange sense of peace, of release. And as she released the artifact's curse, something had changed inside her, something she couldn't fully understand yet. The CenaXian leader, who had been standing nearby, stepped forward. Its gaze was somber, but there was a depth of gratitude in its eyes. "You have done what none of us could. The artifact's curse is broken. We owe you everything." Serena slowly lifted her head, looking at the alien before her. "But what happens now?" she asked quietly. "The artifact's power has been destroyed. But what about the consequences? What about me?" The leader's eyes flickered with a hint of sorrow. "The artifact's curse was bound to your kind. You have freed us from its hold, but in doing so, the bond between humans and the artifact is not easily erased. The energy you absorbed, your connection to the artifact, it has left a mark on you, Captain. A part of it will always remain." Serena felt the weight of the leader's words. A mark. Was that the reason she felt different? As if something within her had been forever changed. She glanced down at her hands, the ones that had touched the artifact, and for a moment, they seemed unfamiliar. "What does that mean for me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The CenaXian leader paused, its face unreadable. "It means that your journey is not yet over. The artifact's power was a curse, but it was also a key. You have unlocked something inside yourself. The full extent of its power is yet to be understood, but it is yours now. The question is, how will you use it?" Serena swallowed, uncertainty clouding her thoughts. She had done what needed to be done. She had destroyed the curse. But now, the artifact's energy lived inside her, like a dark secret, a force she could not yet control. "I don't know how to use it," she said quietly, "but I will learn. We'll figure it out together." James nodded, his expression resolute. "We're with you, Captain. Always." As Serena slowly stood, her legs still shaky, but her resolve stronger than ever, She looked out across the strange, alien landscape. The CenaXian city was quiet now, the strange, glowing lights no longer pulsing with the same terrifying energy. The darkness that had once threatened to consume them all was gone, but the echoes of the artifact's power were still present, lingering in the air, in her body. Serena knew that the path ahead would not be easy. The artifact had not just been destroyed, it had been transformed. Its energy now flowed within her, and though it was no longer a curse, she could feel its weight. It was as though a door had opened within her, and she didn't yet know what was on the other side. She looked to the CenaXian leader. "What will happen to you now?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. The leader looked back at her, its face filled with a quiet understanding. "We are free now, free from the artifact's influence, but there are still many questions we must answer. Perhaps you can help us find those answers, Captain." Serena nodded slowly. She didn't know what the future held, what the energy of the artifact inside her might mean for her crew, or for the galaxy. But one thing was clear: this wasn't the end. The universe was vast, filled with mysteries, and now she had a role to play in uncovering them. The artifact may have been destroyed, but its legacy would live on, not just in the Ancient Ones, but in her as well. And Serena Walker, captain of the Endeavor, was ready to face whatever came next. The silence of the chamber hung thick in the air as Captain Serena Walker stood at the heart of the alien city. The CenaXians, once a proud and powerful race, now stood with a quiet, shared relief. The curse that had threatened to wipe them out had been broken. Yet, despite the victory, Serena could feel that the true journey was only just beginning. The weight of the artifact's energy still lingered within her, pulsing faintly beneath her skin. She felt its presence, like a shadow, quietly watching. It wasn't a burden she could ignore, nor was it a gift she could easily understand. Serena couldn't deny the power it held, the power she held now. But with that power came uncertainty. The CenaXian leader's words echoed in her mind. "The full extent of its power is yet to be understood, Captain." James's voice broke through her thoughts. He had approached quietly, his face lined with concern. "You okay?" Serena glanced over at her first officer. Despite the tension in the air, she managed a small smile. "I'm fine, James. I'm just processing everything." He studied her for a moment, eyes flicking between her and the artifact's empty pedestal. The room felt colder now, the unnatural hum of power gone, but the silence remained unsettling. "You know, you've got an entire galaxy waiting to see what happens next. It's all in your hands now." Her smile faltered slightly. The enormity of his words settled over her like a weight. She was no longer just the captain of the Endeavor. She was something more. The artifact's curse had bound her to its power, but now that the curse was broken, what was she meant to do with it? "What if I can't control it?" Serena said, her voice softer than she intended. "What if the energy inside me, it starts to consume me, like it did the CenaXians?" "You've already done the impossible," James replied, his tone steady. "You faced down the curse and stopped it. I think you've got more strength in you than you give yourself credit for." Serena turned toward the CenaXian leader, who had been observing the exchange in silence. "What happens now for you? For your people?" The leader's eyes were filled with gratitude, but there was also a profound sadness. "We have been freed from the artifact's grip, but the scars remain. The artifact's influence has shaped us for centuries. There is much we must rebuild, but we are free to choose our future now, and we owe it to you, Captain Walker." Serena nodded, acknowledging the words, but in the back of her mind, her thoughts raced. The CenaXians had endured a long and painful history tied to the artifact. Their freedom was hard-won, but it wasn't the end of their journey. In many ways, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. And for the humans aboard the Endeavor, it was the same. "Where will you go?" Serena asked, the weight of responsibility settling in. "We will rebuild our society, but we will also need your help, if you're willing," the leader said. We cannot undo everything on our own. You've seen what the artifact can do. There are others in the galaxy who will seek it, or something like it. We need to be ready. Serena's gaze sharpened. You're talking about more than just the artifact, aren't you? There's something larger at play. The CenaXian leader's voice grew more serious. Yes, the artifact was but one part of a larger force, one that seeks to control the very balance of the universe. We cannot let that power fall into the wrong hands again. And now we know that humans, like you, are connected to it in ways we don't yet understand. Serena took a slow breath, processing the weight of the new information. Her role in this wasn't over. She had ended the curse, yes, but the remnants of the artifact's power lived on, inside her and possibly others. The CenaXians had their own battles ahead, but the humans of the Endeavor now had an unexpected new mission: to understand the artifact's true purpose and stop others from seeking it out. The leader's eyes softened, as if it understood the weight of the path that lay ahead. You are the key to stopping the chaos that might come. Your journey is far from over, Captain Walker. Serena nodded. She felt the power inside her, a strange, electric hum, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She had faced the darkness, had broken the curse, and emerged stronger. Whatever the universe had in store, she was ready to face it head-on. We'll help, she said firmly. We'll make sure the artifact's legacy doesn't bring more harm. The CenaXian leader bowed deeply, a gesture of respect. Thank you. Together, we can ensure that the galaxy is not torn apart by forces beyond our control. Serena turned to her crew, her family, her comrades. They were with her. They had always been. And now, as the galaxy lay in the balance, they would face the unknown together. With a final glance toward the now quiet city, Serena Walker straightened her back. The mission wasn't over, but she was no longer just a captain. She was a protector of the galaxy, a force against the darkness. And as the Endeavor lifted into the stars, the future awaited. They would face it together.